Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bears on Tap. First and foremost, happy Ryan Poles Day. We have found our GM. The first step into the next step of the Chicago Bears franchise has been taken. Ryan Poles was named the next GM, the seventh GM of the Chicago Bears, and the first African-American GM in team history just yesterday morning. And even this morning, the Bears dropped like a little hype video of him pulling up to work. Sun hadn't even come up yet. Real lunch pail guy. He probably had like some day old spaghetti and just some lunch pail shit in the box on his way to his first day. But a quality signing from the Kansas City Chiefs and a good positive step forward for the organization in a time that we've talked about over the last few months. That's very important for the future of this franchise. So, Joey, we'll start with you. What do you think of this most recent hire?
I like it. At first, he wasn't like necessarily the main guy that I wanted. He wasn't like number one on my list, but of course, I'm not in all those meetings. Like, I don't see his interviews. I don't know what his plan is. I don't know exactly what he wanted to do, what he told them, what he wanted to do. So, looking into his background and stuff, I mean, obviously with the Chiefs and all the success that they've had. And, that video kind of gets you hyped up a little bit, of course, and coming out there, like you said, it's still dark outside. And he's like, all right, Chicago, let's get to work. I mean, I'm excited, man. Like, it's definitely a change. And I think him being just the background that he has, and of course, all the picks that they've made throughout that system with Kansas City, the draft picks and stuff, is big with the players and finding linemen and being a former offensive lineman. I mean, I like it. I definitely like the move.
Yeah, and I'll second that, Joey. And I also like the move, and a couple maybe a little different reasons. One, I love me some O-line energy in the front office as a former offensive lineman myself. I love the big guys getting in the front office. That just gives me the warm and feel and the fuzzies. I'm all excited about that. But I mean, it speaks a lot when the guy's only really taken, 4 GM interviews in terms of teams over the last 2 seasons, and he was a finalist for all 4 of them. Like, that speaks volumes to me. And honestly, he was a finalist for the Panthers job last season. He was a finalist for the Vikings, Giants, and Bears this season. He kind of flew under the radar for the Bears, I feel like, because there was so much hype around, like, Brown and Dobbs. Like, his name was thrown out there, but I don't think he was ever, like, amongst the greater part of the fan base, really ever like thought of as a favorite.
Yeah.
But again, the fact that they moved in as quickly as they did, they secured him. George rolling up in all the Bears gear to pick him up like a good Chicagoan at O'Hare Airport at 1 a.m. Like that, the fact that he effectively told the Minnesota Vikings to just go F it and like didn't even take their second interview. He was just like, I'm taking the Bears job. And sure, maybe it was, the Bears were the one team that gave him a shot at his NFL dream before he ultimately, made his way to Kansas City to be a front office member. But just son of a bitch, dude. Like, how good that feels watching all those different like highlights of all these Minnesota blogs and like radio shows and stuff talking. They're like, no, we're not concerned. Like, we'll get polls. It's fine. It's cool. It's cool. And then he signs with the Bears. It just tells Minnesota to
you got to remember
the sun shine. So I love me some of that.
That's a fan base that does unthinkable things to Kirk Cousins highlights, so we don't give them any credit.
Dude.
But
you see that one Twitter account that dude?
Yeah, I don't know what his name is, but that dude's a fool. But yeah, when the owner of the team shows up in some Asics, some dad jeans, and a varsity fucking Bears jacket that I've never once seen in my life,
but I want it, dude. But I want it.
Dude,
it is. He was kind of flagging out. Let's be honest.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ron. You work around professional and some college sports teams. Like, you see all the merch that goes around. George's ass is up at the team shop, like before the sun comes up, taking his pick of the litter on what Bears shit that he wants, and we saw that out there at O'Hare.
I need those shoes. I need those shoes.
Yeah, no. Once you graduate to those shoes, you don't do no more running in your life. I know they're running shoes, but yeah, everyone that I've ever seen wear those shoes, bro.
Never.
Silver Surfers. They got the thick sunglasses and all that. But the way I look at it is, people looked at it like there's people that are mad about it, and like it kind of caused like an uproar on social media. I thought it was like an odd move, but it's like, we're a family-run business. We're the Bears. Like, who the fuck cares if our owner goes to pick the GM up from the airport and he's dressed like somebody's uncle, You feel me? Like it's not that big of a deal. And the thing that I think actually, if you actually are from Chicago, or if you actually, if you, I know we have O'Hare people and Midway people, to get anyone to pick you up from either airport is like pulling teeth out. So that just goes to show George was a little bit more invested in this hire. And I think if you want to take a positive out of that, they really must have liked the guy if he didn't send like the Bears chauffeur or whatever to go get him.
Yeah, he didn't send like you or me to go get him beat on.
Yeah, he didn't send
like
the shitbox intern to go pick him up. Yeah,
exactly. Like it's just like but that's like you said, that really does speak volumes, and it's encouraging as a Bears fan that like they really like him. And sure, of course, everybody's like, but it's George and all of them that like him, but like they like him. And again, it's not just the Bears that like him. He was a finalist for 3 other jobs in the last 2 years. Like he's not just some slapdick dude that we've never heard of before. Like he's well known in the NFL in terms of being this like front office member, and he's young because he started so early in his career. He's only 36. Like this is legitimately a dude that, yeah, he's getting started at a young age. And I saw something on Twitter today that said like people are up in arms about his age, but but what if he started later in life and he was in the same amount of years of experience, but he was in his 40s? Does that really make a difference? No. He's been around football for the last 13 seasons in one of the best teams in the NFL right now in Kansas City. Like, I think we'll be okay, guys. I feel really good. And I actually, again, love me this Ryan Poles signing the more and more I learn about this dude because, and again, I mean, I'm telling you right now, Bdon, going back to the McCaskey outfit, if that's not available in the Bears team store next season, I will riot because I want it. I'll even buy my own khakis if I have to, or a pair of jeans with it, whatever. Like, I need that jacket and I need those shoes pronto.
Bro, there are so many pictures out on Twitter of him just like out in the streets, just looking like such a dork. I mean, that's George McCaskey for you. That's our owner at the time, or at the present moment, I guess you would say. And one thing that I thought was a really cool tidbit and fun fact about Ryan Poles, aside from the fact that he has the exact same initials as our previous GM, that's also just a fun fact. But he goes from not being able to make the Chicago Bears roster to now having full control over the entire roster. So I think that, like, hey, it didn't work out in his playing career. He picked up, like Joey said before we started, and spent a vast majority of his career with the Chiefs, right, before this. And it's worked out to now where, like I said, he's the 7th GM in team history. And now he's the first African-American GM in team history. And I think, like, to take a moment to just appreciate that, because I remember a segment that I watched. It was last weekend. It was on NFL on Fox. And they were just talking about, like, the diversity in the hiring because, if you look at it, there's a lot more white coaches than there are African-American coaches and GMs and all that. And it's like one of the notes that they said was, it shouldn't take an African-American GM to hire more coaches. So I thought, like, for progress and getting those people in those places, it's a good step for the NFL and for getting, people of color in those positions. So I thought it's a very good moment for the league as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, that's a big problem. Like the only black head coach that we can say that's really stuck it through for so long has been Mike Tomlin. Yeah. Like it just seems like there's just not enough of these guys in the NFL that stick. And
but they're all assistants and they're all coordinators, and so I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it for that aspect alone. And I think, this is a guy that's really qualified too. Like he has done so much to earn this position, like already, just the amount of work that he's put into these different draft picks, like we talked about before hopping on here with Creed Humphrey, him being a 2nd round pick, him playing
Tyreek Hill in the 5th round. Like this dude is a beast when it comes to draft season. And
unlike, obviously they deserve credit. Like the other guys in that building deserve credit for those picks, but like, those offensive linemen in particular, I've heard that he was really high on those guys, like the Creed Humphreys and the Trey Smith, I believe. Now I'm losing his name. Yeah, Trey Smith, which he's played at guard all season. So, I mean, both these guys, rookie offensive linemen, they've been playing guard all season, and the Chiefs have had a pretty decent season. They started out really rough, I think, but
I mean, they're one game away from the Super Bowl in their 4th AFC championship. I fucking hate them. I hate him.
Again, but if we can build that system here, and I mean, like, maybe it's going to take some time. Like, we got a lot of turnover that's probably going to need to happen here. He's going to put his own stamp on this team. He's going to look for what he believes in and build his own system, I hope. Like, it's not going to be like a complete model of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
We don't want to see them try to replicate like Matt Nagy did. Like, Matt Nagy tried to replicate the Chiefs so much that he ended up just being sucked into that and stuck and glued on just his system and the Chiefs system, and like didn't try to fit his players to the best of their abilities. Like, didn't try to make a system around the players. And I do not want to see that at all. And I don't think that's going to happen here with Poles, because he seems smart enough to. He was being a former player. Like, I know Nagy was a former player too, but like, I think Poles, like, just everything you read about him, everything you hear about him, just the way he speaks, I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's really going to try to get the right guys in place, and we'll see what happens going forward. But it's definitely a positive right now if we're looking at it from at least like the smartest guy in the building. And it sounded like all 5 of those people. We had 5 people in the meetings that were doing the hiring process or whatever. Which, I mean, you can say what you want about Goofy George and Ted and whatever, but all 5 of them, this is their top choice. So it's like, that's a plus. Like, that means everybody's
unanimous. That means, it's literally there was no other choice. And I think one of the good points that Ron brought up earlier, I know Ron likes him, a nice O-lineman guy. I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot more beef up front, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Quality beef. I'm talking like the 93-7 shit. None of that super greasy shit in the pan.
You're talking A5 Wagyu beef.
Like, bro. Like, you don't got to strain that shit, nothing. Just no fat, straight gas.
Yeah, man. I mean, and honestly, like, I really like kind of the direction I think that they're going with this pick too, because he's seen both aspects of Kansas City's success, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about it before we jumped on, right? Early in his days in Kansas City, they weren't a very good team, right? They took Eric Berry, number 5 overall in the first round one year. Eric Fisher was a number 1 overall pick another year. Like, they had a lot of high draft picks for quite a few years. And then as of the last 6 drafts, they've only had 2 first-round picks because they've been trading them away to go get guys and improve because they've been competitive. So he's kind of seen the best of both worlds. He knows what's going to work. And kind of tying it back to the point I brought up earlier about with the Minnesota Vikings. I saw something today or yesterday on Twitter. I can't recall who it's from. I wish I could, so I could give them credit. But like he even said, he's like, they said they're like, he chose the team with inferior facilities, an inferior stadium. He clearly must believe in Fields. He obviously has to be a Fields fan if you take this job. And sure, maybe the Vikings have more talent at more important positions, but like, there's something about Chicago, and there's something about, because he knows, he damn well knows. Like, he's a BC guy. He's a smart dude. Boston College ain't no joke of a university in terms of academics. Like, he knows what it means to win in Chicago. And if he's the GM that gets it done, dude, like, his big, beautiful O-lineman frame is going to be on a statue one day, and like, I'm here for it. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm in a good mood today. I like.
What you drinking on, Ron? What you drinking on?
So currently, I am drinking out of my beautiful sweetness glass. R.I.P. to the legend.
Yeah, they don't have no fucking Fran Tarkenton glasses for you Viking fans.
No Fran Tarkenton glasses.
Dude, we undercut him again after Justin Fields. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned that.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't want people to forget that Ryan Pace was the one that picked Fields or moved up to get Fields, because lost in all this, I feel like, is going to be the fact that Ryan Pace actually made that move. Yeah. Which, I mean, we'll see.
Well, dude, he said he wanted to put everything on the table. They did. They put their meat on the table. It wasn't enough. And I think, we'll talk briefly about it. Like, I think Pace was good at some things, bad at some things, and indifferent on everything else. But I think he'll land. I know he'll land on his feet quicker than Matt Nagy will in this league for sure.
100%. But I mean, if we're calling it a spade, like, if you just look at Pace's drafts, he hit on a lot of late round guys that are impactful players.
The hardest part.
His ultimate downfall was, unfortunately, picking a head coach and managing the salary cap.
Yep.
Because like this season's gonna be interesting, and that's a challenge too. Like and Bdon, maybe I'll spin the conversation here because I know this is something you brought up, so I think this is absolutely something that needs to be discussed before we jumped on. But is the aggressive nature that you think Poles is going to have this offseason kind of being prepared for that because they do have a lot of dead cap. They have a lot of very high paid players that are either free agents or, kind of in their waning years of their contracts. Like, does he get aggressive and move a lot of these guys? Do we not see Akeem Hicks and Allen Robinson return? I think Allen Robinson's probably good as gone. But
unless this dude rolls out the red carpet and like all the blowies for Allen Robinson and 18 million to 22 million, it ain't happening.
No,
I'm talking like this dude needs the world to go completely 360 for us to somehow and we don't even want him. I don't want Allen Robinson unless the money actually makes him happy because I don't know what makes him tank.
That's the thing. I don't want Robinson if he's going to be overpaid. But, that's the thing
underproducing,
too. Yeah, because he didn't produce this past year. And, we all saw it. Like, the writing was on the wall. He didn't want to be there.
But the mentality of not getting your worth, dude, if we don't get our worth at our regular jobs, we're fucking out, He doesn't have that luxury.
Factual.
Maybe this does change his mind a little bit, knowing that there's new leadership as far as, like, a GM and a coach. And maybe that's, like, something that would want him to take. I'll take a little pay cut to stay here with Justin Fields. But we also saw that the connection blooming with, Darnell Mooney. Is he going to come back to this team and be like, hey, I'm second fiddle in this offense? Like, I don't know if that's something that A-Rod wants.
I think Ron brought it up the best way possible to where, like, I'll make this analogy. It's like when your company gets bought out, right? So this guy is going to come in, like you said too, Joey. He's going to try and bring in his guys. Like, obviously, he's not the head coach, but the first, and that we'll have another episode for that next week and we'll talk about the head coaching candidates that have been in Hallis Hall this week as well. But the first step after hiring the GM is getting us a head coach, and that's also just as important as the GM. And with that head coach, right out the gates, there's going to be several players that are either close to the end of their contract or even just players that don't fit the schemes that the coaches want to run. So right out the gates, that's going to be a reason why people leave. Ron, you brought up the contract situation. There's a lot of dead cap space. There's a lot of guys that are due a lot of money that don't produce towards where that money says. And I think we're going to see a lot of people leave. I think we're going to see aggressive nature in free agency. And I think, too, like, don't put this out of the realm of possibilities. Like, if Ryan Poles sees a guy in the first round that he likes and say there's somehow, some way he can package one of these guys that are towards the end of their contract in that deal, why not? Let's turn it into fucking Madden. I do that in Madden all the time. Trade the old guys that you don't need anymore to get a better draft pick. Like, I don't know. And on the topic of Madden, why do we have the Bears, the female portion of Bears Twitter with their jaw dropped about this man when he looks like a creative player off Madden? Like, the first generic player that you pick when you're creating like a guard or a tackle is what dude looks like. I made the analogy he looks like a thumb. Gonna love him to death if he does his job right. I don't really care what he looks like. I just thought it was like so strange that, like, it wasn't just one post that I saw. It's like these ladies on Bears Twitter are drooling over. They are drooling over this man. Yeah. Okay, yeah, he is young. What did you guys say? He was 36?
36.
They're going to start shooting their shot. Watch him get on Twitter or Instagram, and we're going to start seeing the freaks come out at night.
It's going to be IGDM Central, dude. If he's got an IG, he better look out.
Because at 36, like, even if he's married, like, he probably just started his family. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's young. He's only a couple years older than us, 5-6 years older than us. Joey, he might be a year older than you, but just kidding.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean,
just throwing shots at the Ragoda.
This thing's honestly fucking like so messed up right now.
I will say this: you guys grow enough beard hair to make up for the fact that I can't, and I refuse to.
I'll give you some
because it just looks like I get like the shadow, but I just can't, so I don't even try. But I get like hair everywhere else. It's dumb.
I'm pretty sure I straight up just look homeless after this last week, though. It's been so fucking cold, dude. I don't want to do anything.
No, it's Frank Gallagher weather out right now. Bro. Yeah, I was saying before we started, I walked the dog. I come back inside, my hands are so cold, and I think like right now,
Get us back on track, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna reel us back in. So right now, let's move on to the head coaching search. So this week, correct me if I'm wrong, Matt Eberflus has been in, Jim Caldwell has been in, and Dan Quinn has been in. Also,
Correct.
in the last week or so, it was announced that there was no contact even made with Jim Harbaugh. So for our Harbaugh stands, I know a lot will pop up in the comments before the show's over. I'm
Yeah, where's
sorry,
he at?
but no Lop Suckfest today. Looks like the pipe dream looks like it's over. I never really believed in it in the beginning, but since a Lop was allowed to have Jim Harbaugh, I want Jeff Fisher. And I don't actually want Jeff Fisher, but I'm just saying that to be a jack off. So, of the three, guys, we'll go like this. Of the three candidates that were in this week, if, gun to head, if you could only pick from these three, there will probably be a couple more, I would say. And I would expect a head coach to be named by Friday or Saturday. Of those three, who would you want the most? Joey, I'll start with you.
I'm just going to say it, just keep it brief because we're going to go more in depth on this later. But
yeah, when they do actually, yeah.
Yeah, and we can give reasons why, like we would have picked somebody else over this person, that whoever they pick. But I think I would take Caldwell, and it's for a couple different quick reasons. It's because I think he did a hell of a job with the Lions with that dumpster fire of an organization. I mean, they've been
if you can get the Detroit Lions to the playoffs, you can get the Chicago Bears to the playoffs. Regardless of what the roster looks like or any of that. If you can get that organization to the playoffs, you can get anyone there.
And he didn't deserve to be fired. I don't believe. I think he's a good leader.
Wasn't he off a 9-7 year or some shit?
Something like that. Yeah. And what did he go the year before? Like 10-6?
I think 11? They won the division that year. They made the playoffs.
9-7.
9-7. No, the year before that though. Ron, what was
9-7?
Was it 9-7? Oh, okay.
Yeah, just 9-7 guys.
Yeah, okay. I guess it wasn't as good as I thought. I thought it was 10-6 for some reason, but regardless, I think even though he had Megatron and he had Matthew Stafford, I know there's points that have been brought up about that too. And I think just because you have good players and you win with good players or you had a winning record with good players doesn't mean that you did a bad job or you were carried by those guys. Like you have to put those guys in position to succeed. We've seen it with the Bears. We have guys that are good players. Doesn't mean you're going to win. And he's a good leader to me. I think he's a very good motivational speaker. I think he might do a little bit of that on the side, but I just
like Ron said, he went to Boston College. He's a smart kid.
Yeah, and guess what though? With Caldwell, he also yeah. Well, that was Poles, but
that was Poles. Yeah, my bad.
Caldwell went to Iowa, dude. He was a defensive, so
Oh yeah, bro. Iowa's as much as I shit talk Iowa, the only reason why I shit talk them is betting related. Like I could give two fucks what's going on in their cornfields. I got plenty going on in these cornfields out here. But I do respect Iowa players that get to the league. A lot of them are very successful, and Ferentz has been the coach at Iowa my entire life. They know what they're doing over there. It may not be the prettiest football. It may not be the flashiest football. But
his offense just drives me nuts. But yeah, they're defensively they're sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the big thing though for me, Bdon, is he's an offensive guy. That's his thing. He's an offensive guy. I wonder what kind of
never terrible though.
Coaching staff he's gonna build though. I don't know what kind of coaching staff he's gonna bring with him. But he was a defensive back in college. So he understands defense, along with being able to. He switched to wide receivers and quarterbacks, and then offensively, as a coach. But so he understands the defensive side of the game and the offensive side of the game.
Dude, let me see Jim Caldwell cutting up on a T-step drill with the DBs, like how Nagy used to throw passes. I don't know how old Jim Caldwell is, but
pretty old.
Get him out there in a pair of shorts, fucking picking off Justin Fields, and put that on the social media. That would be hilarious.
I want to see him on the shortstop pose, just sitting there, just waiting for him.
Yeah, just in his DB stance, lined up across Darnell Mooney. That would be some good old-fashioned fun.
That's funny you mentioned his age, though. That's a big thing. The reason why people don't want him. I think he's 67.
He's got to be north of 60 for sure.
Something like that. He's up there. He's close to Belichick age. I know that.
Yeah, he's 67 years old. It's not like he's 90 years old and geriatric. The guy can still coach football games.
And when's Belichick going to retire? I know that's Belichick. It's not Caldwell. I'm not comparing the two. But
I think right now, no matter what we look at, of the people that they've brought in, the most important word is qualified. Just like Ryan Poles, qualified.
Yep.
We need almost like an Indeed or a Monster.com fucking listing. We need the most qualified person to be, and it also has to be a guy that gets along with Ryan Poles and someone. Well, obviously he's the one that's going to hire him. So if he's a jag off the Poles, he's not going to get the job. But we need them to have that like synergy to work together to be a team and to, like I said a couple weeks ago on the show, to give Ted Phillips that office that they gave the dude in Ted Lasso, like underneath the stair set. Like get him the fuck out of there. Tell him to go worry about the price of beer and soda and the George McCaskey jacket in the team store and nothing having to do with football because we have one football guy in the building now, former player, guy that, you know, like Ron said, was with the Chiefs when they were not that good at football, when they had like Chad Henne at quarterback, and he left the Chiefs with the best, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL currently. So, and a lot of other players that are at the top, if not the best at their respective positions as well. And that's something that as a Bears fan has to excite us. And I said too, like, we all watched the divisional games this weekend. We talked about the Chiefs one a little bit more, obviously, with Poles being the Chiefs guy. But if I could just get like one game in my life that looked like that was like as exciting as that game, as a Bears fan, like I'm all the way there for it. But I think like with a guy in Ryan Poles, young, unproven, hungry, ready to roll, qualified, all of the above. That's like the longest beat onomatopoeia of all time. Like I don't know how else to cut it. Like I'm ready to run through a brick wall for this guy, and I'm until further notice, until further review, until he really does something, you know, bad, like gets rid of a guy. Iowa's Scott from Iowa. I'm sorry, that is not true. That is not true. They do got some good qualified guys, but
hey, listen, it can both be.
South Bend. Take a trip to South Bend.
I knew you were going to say that, but you know I like Notre Dame too. So I'm a fan. I got both tight end U's.
Okay, but what I'll say is the way this franchise is trending right now. This was a monumental hire. And before we go any further of the coaching candidates, because we're starting to hit the east side of the train station, Ron, who would you say is your favorite of those three? Because there could be more. You know, the Bears, they always keep shit from us, so I'm sure there's at least three more guys that haven't been named yet.
Yeah. Well, just one real quick thing here. There's an entire article about Harbaugh staying the hell away from Bears from our boy P-Boats. So encouraging people to go check out that on good old ontapsportsnet.com. But I agree with Joey. My pick is also Caldwell. And here is my reasoning. One, I love the report that he walked into the interview with literally a system designed to identify and capitalize on Justin Fields' strengths. Beautiful. That's a great start. Attaboy Jim Caldwell. I like he's a beautiful bastard. He did his homework. Here's his other thing. First year as a head coach, he went 14-2, went to the Super Bowl, lost to the New Orleans Saints with the Indianapolis Colts. Following year, he went 10-6 with the Indianapolis Colts. Following year, he went 2-14, and everybody's like, well, what the hell happened? That was the suck for luck year. Peyton Manning was hurt. They had a gong show of a team that year. They were bad. That was the suck for luck year.
Suckies for luckies, baby.
Suckies for luckies. Then he was fired. Then he wasn't the head coach for a few seasons. But then he got his chance.
Yeah.
But when you can do this with literally the biggest garbage fire of an organization that this league has ever seen,
arguably in all of the core four,
all of it.
Yeah.
11-5 with the Detroit Lions in 2014, 7-9 in 2015, 9-7 in 2016, 9-7 in 2017. You had three of your 4 years with Detroit were winning years, and your one losing year was still one game below 500. If he can do that with the Detroit Lions, the biggest garbage fire in all of fucking sports, give me him in Chicago with the brain of Ryan Poles and a quarterback like Justin Fields. Because look at what Matt Stafford did in Detroit under Jim Caldwell. He threw for like 5,000 yards every year. You know the amount of like serotonin and adrenaline that'll be pumping through my body if Justin Fields is just fucking slinging the rock like Matt Stafford.
I was going to say, you can probably write down Justin Fields to break every single passing record under Jim Caldwell if he's our head coach.
Literally, if Jim
and
Caldwell
he had Peyton Manning and Stafford as his quarterback. So, like, He's had good quarterbacks. He knows how to play with good quarterbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
He
He
knows
knows
how to
what they
win.
look like too.
Yeah, he knows what
good
good players
quarterbacks.
look like too. Yeah, I think
Like,
for
that's my
me,
guy.
and I know I'm gonna break the assignment, but since we all said Caldwell, I want to bring up one person that we didn't bring up that should be brought up as well that also interviewed for the job, and that's Brian Flores. I think Brian Flores would also be a good hire for the Bears. I don't know where they kind of stand with him, but that was I just didn't want to be chalk and pick the exact same person down the line. But if I had to pick of those three, it would be Caldwell for sure. But Flores, another situation similar to like Caldwell, where it's like, yo, he just went 9-7 with an absolute shitbox team with no quarterback. Like Tua, great college quarterback, really, really rooting for him to do well after the injuries and all that stuff. But I don't really think like he was the answer or will be the answer in Miami. And I think like to even be on the brink of the playoffs to where the Dolphins were eliminated, I think like week 17 or the second to last week of the season, was a phenomenal turnaround for them. And if I had to pick someone of the, I guess you would say now four people that were interviewed so far, I would pick Flores with I was to say with candidate being Caldwell second, just completely ass backwards, but with Caldwell being my second candidate. And similar coaching careers, like picking up bad teams and turning them into good teams, because there's a sort of privilege that comes in the NFL, right? Like it's a lot easier to succeed in certain places than it is in other places, and you see that with a team like the Detroit Lions. You see that with a team like the Cleveland Browns. You see that with who's a good third one that I can think of, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You know what I'm saying? But if you go to a team like the Steelers or the Cowboys or the 49ers or one of these teams that have that treasured history and that know what the organization needs to be run like, there's a little bit more privilege that comes with that, and it's a little bit easier. But as you guys have both pointed out, I like a guy that wants to get it the harder way. I want a guy that chose the shitbox stadium and the rundown franchise over the I wouldn't say rundown franchise, but the rundown ish roster compared to a roster that has been flipped, with the exception of a very expensive quarterback that will be flipped soon. You know what I'm saying? So there was a lot of reasons to pick the Vikings for the GM spot, and the head coach, they'll have their options. Like I'm sure Dan Quinn and Caldwell, they'll all interview in different places and go different places. But for what it's worth, we got our guy at the GM position, and from what we've seen, like Ron, or was it? I already am losing it, but I think it was Ron that brought up the system. Caldwell already has the job in his mind. You got to love that type of confidence. That confidence exudes in any room, and in the NFL, everyone's an alpha. There is no simps. There is no little beta boys in the NFL. If you made it to the NFL, whether you're the fucking water boy or you're the star player, you are in the NFL because you are an alpha, or you're a female alpha, if you will.
Right.
There are a lot of female alpha badasses that are in the NFL, as we see week in and week out.
Yeah, we definitely see that. And I mean, like, here's the thing too, like, Bdon, to expand on your point, like, I don't even think he notified the Vikings that he was going to go meet at Hallis Hall, or have George pick him up at the airport and do the meeting.
Yeah. George looked like he was going to pick up his side piece, bro.
And it could very well be a side piece for a little while. But like honestly though, like, he didn't even let them know. That's how much he wanted this job, going back to Ryan Poles. And like, or he valued this job over the Vikings job. So he obviously sees the infrastructure, or he sees like potential here with Justin Fields, and he can build around it. Obviously having the rookie contract, all that to play with now, that's a big thing for him. And
that's the model for success right now in the NFL. If you look at all these teams so take a look at the four teams that are left, right? Two of them, obviously, Jared Goff's gone now, but the Rams built their roster around that rookie contract, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the Bengals, they have their guy, that rookie quarterback that they drafted in Joe Burrow. Mahomes, same deal. Niners, they got Jimmy G. It is what it is. That's the pride and joy of Illinois left in these playoffs. But the model right now in the NFL that a lot of teams are following is you draft that rookie quarterback, you save all of the money that you can save by not having to, back up the Brinks truck for him, and then you build the roster around him, and you can hopefully rebuild that money back up. So by the time it's time for that guy to get paid, when Justin Fields becomes the Justin Fields we want to know and love, you got the roster around him and you're ready to roll.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I look at it too, like just as far as looking at these coaches. We didn't mention Dable, but like that would be probably if we were going outside of the three finalists. And I like
They
Brian
did or
Flores.
they didn't interview him. Did they interview Dable?
They
don't know.
They did for one. So the three guys that came in the last 2 days are the guys that have gotten second interviews with the Bears. But they I mean, hell, I think they did at least one interview with like everybody, like Leftwich, Bowles, DeBoll, Frazier, like. Yeah, if you're a head coaching candidate this offseason, the Bears probably interviewed you at least once.
They were on head coach Tinder.
Yeah, for real.
Swiping right, left.
Talk about casting a wide net for GMs and coaches. They're literally like throwing it in to the ocean for whales. Like,
yeah, bro, with one of those big ass nets. Yeah,
they're trying to catch something crazy. But I honestly like that would be my first choice. And like, who knows how he's doing in these interviews though? Like, they interviewed him. They had the initial one or the one with Dable, and it kind of makes you wonder with Dable and with Flores because they've had a ton of interviews now at this point with a lot of different places, and nobody's struck a deal with them yet. And it's like, why is that?
I think the most positive thing you can take away from Dable is, especially after seeing them compete against the Chiefs 3 times in the last 24 months, I saw a tweet that said the score was 100-98 in favor of the Chiefs. And as you guys know, the Chiefs won by 6 on Sunday. So that's a guy that can go toe-to-toe with what is currently the standard in the NFL offensively. So that I don't know if we got the Jimmies and Joes, but we got the X's and O's for sure if we get Dable.
And he was a big part of his just
that's right there.
That's a beat out about a peer,
right? That's definitely.
Yeah, it is.
That's 101 Central right there.
Yeah. But all right, so let's close it out on a fun little segment. So arguably the most exciting playoff football weekend, or just weekend of football, maybe week 18 was pretty dope too, because if you look at week 18 for what it was, the Niners came back from down 17 to beat the Rams to even be in the playoffs. And this past Saturday evening, our arch nemesis, the team that we all hate so much, and I was even talking with our former co-host on this show, Ethan Wiles, who's my buddy. We were watching the game together, and I go, "There's no team that I hate in the world of sports, or maybe even anything, than the Green Bay Packers." And to see the MVP, the quote-unquote MVP, only put up 10 points. Yeah, Cody. Aaron Rodgers won, Rex Grossman won for NFL, and I can't even get it out. That's how funny that shit was, bro. Because look at it. Okay, so if you've watched any Packers game, they don't score on their opening drive. So they score on the opening drive, and you look at the game and you're just like, well, fuck. The Packers are going to go on another round, and everyone's going to be insufferable, right? Jimmy G, the pride and joy of Illinois, like I said, and that defense and that special teams, and Deebo Samuel with the big, boom box and all that stuff, they found a way to wipe the cheese out. And I think, boys, for the first time in a very long time, the reality of the Aaron Rodgers era being over has set in. So I just want to know where you guys were all at mentally, and if there was any celebrating going on Saturday when the Chiefs got knocked out.
Oh, lots of celebrating on my end. Ron went on a mini bender from about Thursday to Sunday this week.
How many Big Macs?
No, not even Big Macs, bro. It was beers instead of Big Macs. But
no, I know, but you get to the McDonald's drive-thru.
No, it was Taco Bell this weekend. But I want to go down the list here because I think Cody's comments and even some of Scott's comments really sum it up for everybody. So that's what I'm going to use as my feeling because I share with a lot of these. NFC Championships, Aaron Rodgers won. Rex Grossman won. Aaron Rodgers learned what George McCaskey knows all too well. Owning the Bears doesn't get you much in the playoffs. The good thing for Aaron Rodgers is that losing to the same team 4 times in the playoffs builds natural immunity. Aaron Rodgers should have done more of his own research on the 49ers defense. Cody went hard in the comments, dude. I got to give love to our boy Cody Delman. I don't know if he's still in the stream anymore.
I'm fucking crying, bro.
Went hard. And then we got some more here. Hold on. I don't want to get rid of all of them. I mean, The easy one.
Yeah, Robbie Gould.
Robbie
Robbie Gould hit the game winner. How did I miss that, bro?
You're a legend, man. Yeah, fuck the Packers. I love that
bro.
shit. That shit's awesome. And you know what? Dragging it back down into some little reality.
Cap.
At least the Bears don't have the salary cap, the $44 million over the cap. Good
they
fucking
can't pay
luck.
nobody, bro.
Devontae's gone. A. Rodgers is probably gone. They're probably gonna have to cut some couple other significant players on that team.
And they're wasting years of Jordan Love's rookie contract if he is the guy.
If you guys, do you guys have Spotify?
Bad.
You guys got Spotify?
Yeah.
Do you hear the Packers stock commercials on Spotify ever?
No.
You're about to hear them 3 times more now.
Oh, 100%.
They need to get some money. Yeah, they need a fucking investment because they are, I think, like, what would you say, 44 million, Ron?
Yeah, I think it's 44 million.
On top of the fact that, you know, I know Joey brings up the Jordan Love contract as my dog is plotting to piss on something. Hey, Benzo, what you doing, my guy? Calm down. And we don't even know what Jordan Love's going to be, bro.
He saw a Green Bay Packers logo on your computer. He's going to piss on it.
No, it's literally like the bumper sticker. Yeah, it's like the bumper sticker. But yeah, like, we don't know what Jordan Love's going to be. We don't know what that roster is going to be. We don't know anything moving forward. So I think, like, dude, that was as almost like a playoff victory to us. And I know it sounds lame, and I know Packers Twitter banters us for that shit, but to see you guys go out so sad like that, 10 points at home against a West Coast team in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
Inexcusable.
I got one more thought, Joey, before I turn it over to you, big dog.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the fact that the most underappreciated aspect of football to the casual football fan, that every football fan knows wins and loses you games, especially in the playoffs, is what ultimately bit the Packers in the ass, and the fact that they have the worst special teams unit in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
And it was special teams, poetically, that just royally screwed them right up the ass with a blocked field goal and that blocked punt for a touchdown.
NIU legend Jimmy Ward on that blocked field goal, baby.
It was a chef's kiss. Because like I remember when I was in college,
the last dance.
It was the last dance, and their special teams ultimately screwed them over. Like, dude, because honestly, like when I was in college, shout out SXU, shout out Coach Feminist, like shout out the whole coach staff. We used to practice special teams religiously.
Yeah,
and guys would like roll their eyes, be like, "Why are we doing this?" And I can count probably on both hands in my 4 years there the amount of games we won because of special teams. I will tell. And
your kicker also had a fucking nuke leg.
Yeah,
vomit from like 60. I know your kicker.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt. But like, and no joke, like when you look back on it too, in terms of like in the case of Green Bay, shout out to our boy Juice. He called it like back in October. He was like, "This Packers special teams unit's going to lose them games in the playoffs."
I did see
that
tweet.
Motherfucking shit, it did, and it was so sweet. I loved it. Literally, I was sitting there with a buddy, and I looked at him, and he goes, in a stupid fashion, he goes, "They're gonna block the punt," and we're like, "Shut up." He's like, "No, they're gonna block the punt," and sure as fucking shit they did, and we all went absolute apeshit. I think there was beer on every wall in that house.
Yeah.
After that happened, toodaloo, to see what might finally be the demise of the most spoiled fan base in the last.
Put your toe up in that camera.
Put that nasty toe in the camera. But like,
you guys toe, as Cody says.
Because think about it. They went from one Hall of Fame quarterback in Brett Favre to another in Aaron Rodgers
for our entire lives, basically.
Yeah.
I mean,
all I've ever known is the Packers being
spoiled
competitive.
Yeah,
spoiled. Absolutely spoiled. I can't wait until Jordan Love shits the bed. I can't wait till they're 4-12, like 4 years in a row.
They're gonna find out.
4-13. Excuse me. Can't wait till they're 4-13, 4 years in a row.
We're gonna find out, guys. We're gonna find out if Matt LaFleur is actually this good of a coach, or if it's all pretty much like this season. We know how great of a regular season quarterback Rodgers has been.
Yeah.
I mean, like he chokes in the playoffs though. Like he had that one season where obviously they won it all, but like outside of that, he chokes in the playoffs. That offense, I heard so many excuses. I'm in another group chat with a bunch of Packers fans and stuff, and these guys were like, "Man, the weather, this and that. You guys play home games at fucking Lambeau.
You should know. It's called the frozen tundra."
You put up 10 points in a playoff game.
Nobody gives a shit about your weather argument. You play in Lambeau and bitch about how the fact is an advantage. Shut the fuck up.
The Bears put up, listen, if the Bears put up 10 points in a playoff game, what the fuck would we be saying, regardless of weather? We'd be calling for Nagy's head. We'd be calling for the front office's head, Pace's head, everybody's head. The media would explode in Chicago. If that happens there, like, and there's people actually bringing up the point that, like, maybe they could bring the band back together. Rodgers and Devontae can come back. And then there's other guys who are like, no, I'd rather keep the defense. The defense was actually solid. I've waited my whole life for them to have a solid defense, and now I want them to keep the defense. Guys, guess what that makes you? That makes you the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, no quarterback with a good defense.
Quarterback and a great fucking defense. That makes you the Chicago Bears.
In a way less desirable location.
Welcome to fucking hell. Permanent purgatory. 8-8 every fucking season. Happy fucking life.
8-9, Joe.
And I think too, this is an important time for us as people that troll people on Twitter and stuff. If you're listening to this right now, don't ease up on your Packers friends and family members. They've never had to deal with any sort of adversity, at least long term, as a Packers fan in their life. We're really going to see what Packers fans are made of over these next few years as they're in that transitional phase. Aaron Rodgers is more than likely gone, and that's the biggest chip to fall. And then I know Ron talked about Devontae Adams as well. I'd like to see him go to the Raiders to go play with his college quarterback and Derek Carr. I think, like, the Raiders, regardless of all the bullshit that they dealt with, they were one of the best stories of the whole NFL season to even get to the playoffs. But look at it like this. For our whole lives, we have been little brother, right? We're Cubs fans, so we're big brothers in that aspect. But on the football side, of things, we're the little brother. And I'm not saying, like, yo, the Bears are about to have a decade of dominance or about to go on a 20-year run or we're about to have back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks, but it's time for a changing of the guard. The division is about as wide open as it's going to be for the next 5 years. The Lions look like they're a team that can be anticipated to finish around 500 next year, depending on how they do in the offseason. Vikings, right around 500, maybe 9-8, something like that. There will be no team in our division next year that wins 11 games. You can mark that. 10 wins will win you our division next year. And just like a shitty college basketball game between two teams that we don't know where either are located, first one to 50 wins. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be like that shit, but with 10 wins. And I think, like, to see the Packers go out so sad, hey, buddy, Benzo, I'm going to need you to relax, my dude. I'm sorry for our live listeners. My dog's a crackhead. This means it's probably time for us to go. I'm going to wrap us up. But Aaron Rodgers, you're fraud. This man has just been, like, so annoying this year, too. And I think, like, being on the Pat McAfee show week in and week out and just spewing some of the shit he's spewing.
Smiling it up.
Yeah, just smiling, just being like I think I'm going to mess this up, as the antagonist, right? Is that the bad guy? Who's the bad guy?
The heel. He's the heel.
Yeah, the heel. He's the fucking heel. You did it to yourself, dude. No one made anyone hate you. No one hated you before this year. And he's hated now, and he's outspoken. And I think, just like with everything that he's done on the field, he's a great player. But let's take a look at that last third down, right? If that was Mitch Trubisky or if that was Justin Fields, that shit would be on the Megatron, on the big Jumbotron, on ESPN, on, like, hey, this Bears quarterback missed this wide open pass. He had the wheel route open. He had the post route open. He had, like, 3 other dudes open. He could have threw it to someone in the stands and they could have ran with it. But instead, he throws it into triple OG coverage to his guy trying to play hero ball. So we'll see what Aaron Rodgers can do in a different spot. But the end of the Packers' reign, I think, is finally upon us. And we're starting to make our moves to get this new regime in. We got our new GM in Ryan Poles, and we'll be back with you guys with another emergency podcast when we figure out who that new head coach is. As you guys heard from us, we're all really, really big on Jim Caldwell. I think that would be a quality hire. But as we've seen with the Bears in the past, they keep these things close to the vest. I hope that's something with Ryan Poles that, you know, I don't want him to tell everybody everything, but I want to know a little bit more about what's going on. And I think Ryan Poles may have the opportunity to give Bears fans that, as opposed to Ryan Pace. But with that being said, do you guys have any final thoughts on National Ryan Poles Day, I guess you will?
Yeah, just a quick thought. Love me some Ryan Poles. Again, just doubling down on that. A fun little stat of the night, and I'll tie it back into something Bears here, so just bear with me for a minute. First off, go check out our friends over at Bulls on Tap, because the Bulls, between DeMar Vucevic and Zach LaVine tonight, combined for 69 points, which is super nice. But QB number 1, Justin Fields, was also in attendance. Bulls win. Bears win by getting Ryan Poles. I'm excited for the offseason, gentlemen. That is my final thought of the night.
Joey, for you?
Yeah, I would also like to point out, too, you were talking about how the NFC North is pretty wide open moving forward. The entire NFC is kind of wide open, too, if you look at it, just the entire NFC.
Yeah, because Brady's not locked up either.
He's not locked up.
And the Rams are probably going to be on the downturn after this year for sure.
Yep. And just look at it from a quarterback aspect, or who's on what teams. The AFC has right now, of the teams that we know who the quarterback's going to be of these teams moving forward, they have the better landscape of quarterbacks. Like, you got Mahomes, you've got Josh Allen, you've got Justin Herbert, you've got Joe Burrow. That is considerably better than, I would say, Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray. Those guys are very talented, but that's what you're looking at to compete with right now moving forward in the NFC. And if you're the Bears and you got Justin Fields, you would much rather be facing off against those guys, even if you get to the playoffs, than facing, one of those pick your poison.
Yeah, dude, it's a fucking grind in the AFC, and it's breaking news.
Not breaking news. I just have a final thought. I didn't want to interrupt your thought, but I wanted to before you get into because I know when Bdon gets into that swagger of that closeout mode, that I didn't want to get you off.
My forehead vein starts popping and shit.
It's good. It's good. I would just like to announce that there was a jersey swap tonight at the Bulls game as well, between one quarterback and one DeMar DeRozan. So feed it to me. Feed me that energy. I'm just from one end. Chicago adrenaline right now, dude, on a Wednesday night is just absolutely pumping through my veins.
Well, dude, and you see Io and DeMar, DeMar at Io's thing. I think there's a general sense of community among Chicago athletes right now that I'm not going to say is the best it's ever been, but it's better than it has been in years past, where it's you see Bulls guys at Bears games, Bears guys at Bulls games, Cubs, Sox, all that stuff. So I think that's really good for the city. But I think that's good for the city as well as a good football team, put asses in seats, put more money in the organization's pockets, and hopefully get us a nice new stadium that we could have the Super Bowl at. But we've all said this whole episode, man, it's a good day. It's a quality step in the right direction, and the first step that needed to be made for this Bears 360 to occur. Bears fans, we don't have all the answers. It's not going to happen overnight, but this is a step in the right direction. And now we just play the waiting game and we find out who our head coach is, and hopefully it's the right guy. I'm going to go ahead and knock on wood, because they say a bad head coach sets you back about 3-4 years. I don't got the patience, and I noticed a gray hair on my head earlier, and I would just say that it came on my head from the Bears this season, because I don't know anything else that stressed me out quite like the Bears. But with that being said, we are Bears on Tap. We'll be back with you guys TBD. Whenever that news hits and we can all hop on the microphone, we'll be right back with you guys to discuss our new head coach, and be on the lookout for off-season pieces, free agency pieces, and then as well a lot of draft coverage coming your way. But you can follow my co-host Ron Luce at Luce on Tap, and the Cheese Man up on the top right, the Mr. Ricotta, Joey Ricotta, at the Riot 326. I'm Bdon 300, Brandon Suarez. We are Bears on Tap, and Bear down.
Bear down.
Pulls hard for Ryan. Bear down.